if I now become all defensive and closed, and if I'm like always judging the person, you know, oh, he's not right for me, or she's not, you know, because you're afraid of being hurt again.
That last person has power over you still.
Yeah, they defeated you. They conquered your spirit.
Wow.
So you can't be afraid to have some more of that pain again, right? You have to open yourself up a little bit here.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you're hurt again, at least you can say that that person who hurt me earlier on has no more power over me. You know, I'm still able to fall in love. I'm still able to let myself open myself up to another person.
Yes.
It's incredibly important to be able to feel vulnerable to another person. It's a deep human need. It goes back to our childhood. It's part of our human nature. And if you close yourself off, it's not only going to affect your romantic relationships, it's going to affect you in work and everything.
Yeah, so don't jump into another relationship if you're closed off, is what I'm hearing you say. Like, be willing to heal that part or process it.
And then one last thing.
Yes.
You asked for 3. Those were 2.
Yes.
I'll give you a third. The third is learn to judge people by their character.
So true.
All right? So not the superficial charm and smiles and all the great stuff that they're able to fake, but who they are deep inside, right? You know? Do they have some of these strong character traits? Can they take criticism? Man, you have no idea that that is such an important quality in a relationship.
Taking criticism?
Yeah. If that other person cannot take any kind of criticism, how can you be in a relationship with them? And they find ways to make you pay for criticizing them. They get passive aggressive, they get cold. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. You can't be in a relationship.
Right.
So judge someone like that. Can they take criticism? Can they deal with moments of stress? Can they get outside of themselves and think about me? You know, think about how they are in a conversation. Do they hear what you're saying? Do they come back with things that reveal the fact that they've been listening to you, that they picked up signals from you? Get inside them, get inside their character, and be able to judge them on that basis as opposed to their sexy veneer that they have. So those would be the 3 things. It all starts with something very simple, which is the power over yourself. If you have no power over yourself, then you're at the whim of everything else in this world, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean to have power over yourself? Well, and this is a lot of what I talk about in the daily laws. It begins with something very simple, which is you have to know who you are, right? So you're walking around in this world. You don't know really who you are. You don't know what your needs are, what you really desire in your life, because you're a product of social media. You're a product of what other people are telling you you should like, what your parents tell you, what your friends tell you. You don't know who you are, what drives you, what really motivates you deep down. And so you're kind of wandering in life. And when you're unmoored from yourself, everything else will affect you in a way that you cannot control, right?
When you're what from yourself?
Unmoored.
What's that mean?
When you don't have an anchor. Like a moor is like an anchor.
Okay.
So
you gotta speak in simple terms to me over here.
Maybe it's my pronunciation.
No, it's good. No. I don't know what the word is. That's what I was saying. Unmoored. Gotcha.
Okay. So it's like a boating term.
Yeah.
So you know, if you don't know like what you were intended to do in life, like what your career was that meshes with you well, right? You're going to be making all of these wrong decisions, and people will do things to you that you won't be able to understand why you're reacting the way you're reacting.
Yes.
You'll get lost. You'll end up in blind alleys with your career, and you'll go, man, I'm so helpless. I have no power. I have no control. The world is against me. It's 2021. It's the pandemic. No, it's you. It starts inside of you. The real problem is in you, not in the world, right? You don't know who you are. And it's not easy. I have sympathy for people because we're so distracted. We're so much in our phones. We're so much listening to what other people are telling us is cool on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, etc. We're like creatures of media. We've been programmed. We don't know really what drives us anymore. We're so tuned to what other people are telling us is what we should be interested in, right? So it's not easy, It takes some time. It takes some reflection, right? That means that you have to have the ability to step back, be alone with your thoughts, and as this book is talking about, meditate and reflect on your childhood, on who you are, on the mistakes you've made, on the wrong career paths you've taken, on the wrong relationships you've taken, and begin to construct an image of that real secret inner, the true Lewis Howes that lies buried deep within all the bullshit that people have added onto it. If you can't control yourself, if you don't know yourself, you can't control your own emotions. You're going to be reacting to everything that comes your way without having understanding why you're doing that. So when you know yourself, you know, I don't need to get angry about this because it's not something that touches me personally. It doesn't matter in the end. Whereas if you don't know who you are, everything affects you personally, and you're getting grumpy and insecure and bitter and resentful. You have to start with yourself. It's it goes back to the ancient Greeks and the Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself.
Right. What is the source of our inner power that we maybe aren't even aware of?
Very simple. What makes you an individual? What makes you different? Your uniqueness. That's what the first month in the Daily Laws is about, the month of January. So if you look at people who are successful, you look at a Lewis Howes, or you look at a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whomever, you say to yourself, there's nobody else like them on the planet. You may hate Elon Musk. You may think he's an egocentric maniac. But you can't tell me there's another person with with that kind of guts,
right?
With that kind of confidence and with that kind of vision, right? Okay, because he's one of a kind, right? And you're going around trying to imitate other people, trying to do what you think other people are doing. You're running away from your source of power. What makes you unique, what makes you even weird, what you may even be afraid of because it's so different from other people, is your source of power. It's what makes you a Superman or woman or whatever. Yes. So I don't want to talk about myself too much because who's interested in that? But, I write books that nobody else has the same kind of structure or the same kind of approach. That is my source of power. And very early on, it was threatened. I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. We finished it in 1998. The publisher had already purchased it, but they came back and they go, Robert, this book's a little weird.
Yes.
The structure, the things on the side. We want you to change it. We want you to make it more like other books out there. And me and my partner, the guy who packaged it, he backed me up and we said, no, we'll walk away from the deal. We'll find someone else. Because we knew that being different was the key to making this book a success. It could very easily fail. You could have bombed, but it would have failed in the right way, which is being yourself, doing something different, standing out and not being afraid of what makes you unique.
And how old were you then when you launched that book?
I was 39 when it came out.
39. Did you have a lot of success prior that would have shown this would have been a success?
Nope.
So you weren't some big shot writer that was
Absolutely
getting awards and other things?
I was the very opposite of that.
You were the opposite?
Yeah. Well, I mean, very simply, quickly, I graduated college. I wandered around Europe kind of trying to write the great American novel. I lived in Paris. I lived in Spain. I lived in London. Had all kinds of seductions. I had a great life, a lot of fun. Then I come back to New York. It's time to get serious.
Yes.
I get into journalism. I kind of started off successfully. I worked at Esquire. But then I didn't really like journalism, and it kind of wasn't working. And then after 4 years, I go, this isn't right for me. Go back to Europe. I wander around. I try to write another novel. Fail again. I come back to LA to try and make it in the film business. And it doesn't work well. And I'm a failed screenwriter. I work for various film directors, but I can't sell a single one of my screenplays.
Wow.
And here I am, 35, 36. I have a lot of skill. I've learned writing for film. I've learned writing for journalism. I've been writing novels. I have skill. I have discipline. I have research ability. but I have nothing to show for it.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I was a nobody. And this man whom I met, who, I've told the story many times, I pitched the idea of the 48 laws of power. He thought it was great, but there's a big difference between pitching something and making it happen. But because I had been so disciplined and I'd been writing all this time, I could actually, meet his expectations and write a proposal that would get him excited. But I had nothing to back up to answer your question, I had nothing to back up my confidence that this book would be good. Just simply having a sense it's a book about power, and I understood instinctively that power is about kind of going your own way. Enter action with boldness. That's going to be one of my chapters. And then I'm going to be all weak and timid about my book and how it has to be like other books, that I'm a hypocrite. So I was bold, we were bold, and it turned out well.
So you were 39 when the book came out, pretty much 40 years old with nothing to show for your life, except for lots of experience, but not a bunch of success or accomplishments.
No success, no accomplishments. My parents were starting to give up on me.
So you turned 40, and the book really didn't take off right away, right? Didn't it take some time for it to kind of...
It did well. I mean, it got attention. We got a lot of press for it. It kind of stirred, because it's a weird book, kind of stirred up some interest. And it was selling, but it's selling much more now than it did back then.
Really?
Yeah.
20-something years later.
Oh, man. Like during the pandemic, the sales have skyrocketed.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you have confidence to claim your inner power after years and years of trying things and not working out the way you wanted, kind of trying something else? How did you stay consistent with your inner power and not lose sight of at least trying new things?
Well, it's a great question, and it's not an easy answer, but it might even sound a little bit insane, to be honest with you. But deep down inside, I always had kind of a weird faith in myself. I always had a sense that there was a destiny, that my life was following this certain path, that there was something fated to happen. Maybe it was a little bit grandiose, maybe it was kind of overconfidence, because it would swing up and down. I would go from confidence to the deepest depression. But deep down inside, I never gave up, because I knew I had something in me. Now if the 48 laws of power hadn't worked, I don't know if I would have gotten my act together.
Wow.
I might have been crushed by it, to be honest with you. Or maybe I would have picked myself up like I had picked myself up 30, 40 other times in the past, when people told me, like this one editor, Robert, you're never going to be a good writer. You should go into business or law school. I've been crushed several times, and I picked myself up. But, I don't know if that might have been the nail in my coffin, literally, at that point. But I had a voice inside of me saying, you can write. I know you can write. I've seen you write, Robert. I've seen you write great things. You've never put it together. You never made it consistent, but you have a voice. And that inner voice of mine might have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. It's like I could barely hear it, but it never left me.
How does someone give themselves more power when they feel defeated?
Well, we're circling back to the original thing, you know. So if you know that you were destined for something, that you were fated for something, that you have a sense that your life had a meaning, a purpose, then you can withstand the traumas, the setbacks, the difficulties, the bullshit criticism, and all the other things, right? So in Mastery, I talk about a very simple fact. When you were born, you have this DNA that will never be replicated in the history of the universe.
Crazy.
There will never be another person with your exact makeup, Lewis Howes. And on top of that, no one will ever have your exact parents and your upbringing and your early life. So there's only one of you that's ever existed, right? And that there's a reason for that. There's a purpose behind it. And the purpose behind it is our culture, the same thing as in nature, thrives by the diversity, the people coming into it with different angles, different perceptions, different ideas. That's what makes a culture creative, etc. It's why the Renaissance was so great. All right. So it is a purpose for you being who you are, right?
Yes.
And it may not be that you were destined to be Napoleon or a president or whatever, but there is some kind of greatness in you waiting to come out. And it could be just on the level of working with your hands. Working with your hands is a great skill. To be a master carpenter, to be a master builder with wood or whatever, that is a form of greatness.
Absolutely.
You were destined to do something like that, and it was in, like a seed was planted at your birth. But if you don't know what that is, then you can't find your way back to it. And if you're 24 and you're in my position, and that man who's having his third martini says, Robert, you're never going to be a great writer, go to business school, I would have gone to business school. I wouldn't be here talking to you. But I kind of sensed deep down inside that I was destined for something else, right? I talk to a lot of people, particularly in the podcast world, people who began other careers. They went into law, they went into something else. They weren't happy, right? And then they found their way to like creating a podcast, and it's taken off, right? It's made their lives. They found their way slowly to something else. It wasn't just any old podcast. It was something that reflected their own strangeness, their own weirdness. But they have discovered something that they were destined to do that makes them different, right?
Yes.
Because there are a million other people who can do the same thing out there in this world. But there's only one person like you, born with your own strangeness, your own inclinations, you know?
Absolutely.
There's that Jimi Hendrix song, I don't quote him often, but he says, I'm going to wave my freak flag high, right? You want to wave your freak flag high. You're a freak, you're weird, you're different, but embrace it. That's your source of power. And when people criticize you and you have setbacks, you'll land back on your feet if you know that. You'll have moments of doubt and depression like I did, but you'll eventually land back on your feet.
Do you think it's possible to accomplish your goals and achieve great things and be a success in whatever the definition is for you without going through multiple failures? Do you think it's possible to just be, just finish school and now the first thing I do, it's just going to work out and everything just works? Is that possible?
I'd say no.
No.
Yeah. Because it's just not how life goes, you know? I mean, think of like the greatest athletes in the world, people who are at the top 0.1% of the top of their profession. They're failing all the time.
Yeah.
They're not winning championships every year, right? Their careers go up and down, up. Everybody who's successful, you will see ups and downs. We venerate Steve Jobs as perhaps the greatest tech entrepreneur. He went through an incredibly dark period. After he founded the company, he got fired from Macintosh. He founded Next, which was a failure. He was as depressed as I was in the mid-90s. He didn't know what was going on. Then he got his career resurrected with Apple on a second go. He had a career that went like that, you know. I mean, you can take any name and you can find the same kind of trajectory.
Right.
And it's because through failure, you develop some toughness, some inner toughness, right? You develop a thick skin. You're able to take it, right? Life involves adversity. And if you've only had everything good, the first time something happens that you don't expect, you're just going to wilt. So I don't care who you are, there's always somebody, people who are successful have always had some kind of failure or adversity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stay on,
right,
to rebound.
A lot of people are afraid to create something because they don't want to fail. They're afraid to start, launch, create, whatever it might be, post, because they don't want to fail. What do you think is worse than failure? If failure is actually a good thing for a lot of people to help them learn and grow, what is worse than failing?
Not trying.
Yeah.
So, if you fail and, people are laughing at you, et cetera, and you feel kind of, vulnerable to criticism, et cetera, you take that moment and you learn from it. You learn what you did wrong, right? You learn what didn't work. And then you grow from that, and then the second thing that you create is going to be powerful, and it's going to be successful. I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
What is worse than not than
so
failing.
if you never try, you're never going to learn, right? And a lot of people don't try because they're afraid of that very thing, of actually failing. They'll disguise it as, I'm not ready. I didn't go to the right school. I don't have funding. My daddy isn't rich. People aren't helping me. There's a pandemic. It's bad out there, etc. No. So you're just blaming the fact that you're afraid of failure, right? You're finding excuses. Actually, the pandemic it's a terrible, terrible thing. Don't get me wrong. It's 650,000 people have died. It's insane. But business-wise, it's an incredible opportunity for you. There is so much change going on that if you're young and you're smart and you've got some skill, you create something incredibly brilliant and find your own niche. So stop whining and stop blaming other forces and try. Even before you're ready, start that business, try something and learn from it.
Yes.
I tried many things and I failed many, 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 many times before I wrote the 48 Laws of Power, And it taught me a lot about myself. And then I did the 50th Law with 50 Cent. And the first version of the book that we turned in, the publishers didn't really like it. It was my first real failure as a successful writer. And maybe, well, Robert, maybe you're losing a little bit. And then I kind of heard why they didn't like it. It hurt, but I understood. It was a failure, but no one ever will see it. And then I go, okay, I need to make this book more kind of, a certain style that I've done before. All right, I'm going to not complain, and I'm going to produce this book in the 8 months that they gave me to redo the whole thing. And I learned from it something that I will never forget about why that book failed. And I've never repeated that mistake again. So you have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to be willing to fail. Otherwise, you're never going to develop that kind of thick skin that the world requires.
What's the conversations we should be having with ourselves more to set ourselves up on the path of accomplishing, achieving, and feeling better about who we are and our uniqueness in the world?
Well, one conversation you should be having is very simple. Life is shorter than you think. Okay, you're 25 and you're thinking, wow, I've got 10 years to figure it all out. I've got all these vistas of time. I'm young, I'm healthy, etc. You don't have nearly as much time as you think you do. It goes very fast.
Really?
So you need a sense of urgency and energy. Like, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have to try and start that business. I'm going to have to do something. I don't have as much time as I think I have, right? And you have to develop some fire inside of you. You have to say, a lot of times people don't give you deadlines in this world, right? So you could spend your whole 20s and 30s never producing the thing that you dreamed of because no one's pushed you. No one said, you better do this by the time you're 35 or we're throwing you out of the house or we're whatever. There are no consequences for procrastinating. You have to create those consequences. You have to live on what I call death ground.
Ooh.
Death ground means your back is up against the wall, the enemy is coming at you, and it's either defeat them or die, right? And you have to tell yourself, I'd only have so much time, right? The peak creative years for anybody is in their early 30s.
Really?
I think so, I believe so. And people have borne that out in various studies. Yeah, there's a different kind of creativity that one can have when you reach my advanced age. But the really fluid creative times, and I know it personally, are in your 30s. And they creep up really quickly. And if by the time you're in your mid-30s and you haven't started creating something, man, you're going to be in your 40s and it's almost going to be too late. So you don't have as much time as you think you have. That should be the number one conversation that you have with yourself.
Any other conversations besides sense of urgency?
Well, the worst thing in life is to be 55 or 60 and to go, I had potential, I had dreams. When I was a kid, I was going to think I was do this, and you've realized none of that, right? So you want to have accomplished something in life, something that you're proud of. It doesn't have to be a book or anything.
Right.
It's just something that lasts, that you're proud of, that gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? Because that carries off into every aspect of your life. It carries off into your relationships. It carries off into how well you sleep at night, etc.
Ooh.
So you want to have that in life. You want to accomplish something. What is it? What is it I want to accomplish? What was I meant to accomplish? And how can I start on the process tomorrow? Not next week or next year, tomorrow, right? Maybe you can't start because you don't have the money, but you can start planning.
Right.
You can start maybe taking classes or learning skills that you can do that tomorrow, etc.
You've had a pretty positive attitude, I think, in the last couple of years. I'm curious, what has been the biggest lesson for you with going through a massive stroke, where it's hindered your relationships, where it's hindered your physical activity, your ability to work on the things you're passionate about? What's been the big lessons?
Well, I'm a very driven person, so I wasn't going to let this defeat me, because the alternative was losing hope and becoming suicidal, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Also, I knew I had another book that I really, really wanted to write, so I had to keep living, and I was in a coma for a while, and things were a little bit touch and go during that, and I feel like there was something willed inside of me unconsciously that kept me alive. The other weird thing is, I spent a lot of my time alone, swimming, hiking, writing. It just so happened, just by coincidence, that I was driving when my wife was there. And so I have a feeling that I kind of almost was ready to have my stroke once she was there. I can't say that for sure. These are, weird kind of psychic, almost kind of thoughts. But I felt like there was some willpower in me that was keeping me alive so I could keep going. But the main lesson was, it's been a struggle. I can't say it's been easy. I can't lie and say I've just figured it all out and I'm this incredible superhuman being. I've had moments where I've cried. I've had moments where I felt like giving up. It's like a daily struggle. And other people, I know a lot of people in this world suffer. They have it a lot worse than I do. I have a comfortable life. I have a lot of money. I have my books, etc. But on the level of my body, just every day has been a struggle. I wake up, can I walk? Will I fall? Can I hold this in my hand? It's so dependent on other people. I'm a very independent person. So I've had to really, really work on myself and really develop a lot of patience, which I don't have. And the thing is, when you get an illness like this or something happens like that, the natural thing is just to sort of wait it out and wait until your body recovers. And people said I would have a full recovery 2 years down the line or so. So the tendency would be just to let it go and let time take its healing process. But I wouldn't let that. I don't know why, but I was like, no, I'm going to work out every single day. I'm going to do therapy 2 or 3 hours a day. I bought a special bicycle because I can't do a normal bicycle. It's a recumbent bike where you sit down. Man, it's like the hardest thing. You have to get up these incredible hills, and 80-year-old grandmothers are whizzing by me on their bicycle.
This is outdoors.
Outdoors in Griffith Park, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm just determined to beat the thing, and sometimes it beats me. So every day it's like a battle. It's like a boxing match. Who's going to win? But I'm not going to give up. I just keep trying and trying. I'm going to see a new therapist. I'm working on new exercises. I'm working on different parts of my body. I'm trying to build strength in certain muscles so I can start walking normally. Because, as you know, working out, swimming and hiking and bicycling, that was my main way of de-stressing. I loved it. I loved being out in nature. I loved being alone with my thoughts. And to have that ripped away, it was like having, part of your whole body taken away from you. So, but I'm pretty relentless. That's my lesson. I didn't give up.
Which book of yours that you've written, and the lesson in that book, have you had to lean back on more than any other lesson or principle from all the books? How is it? Which one is really, that's interesting that I wrote about this 5 years ago and now I really need to apply it?
Well, the last 3 books would be more applicable. So there's the book with 50 Cent, The 50th Law, which is about fear and overcoming your fear. And in fact, the last chapter was about the fear of death in that book. And, I've had to deal with a lot of fear you don't know what it's like every day you're walking, and you don't know the next moment you're going to fall. I've had several falls, and falls are literally what will do you in. So it's constant fear, and I just won't let it affect me. I push past my limits. I do things that I'm not supposed to do. I take hikes, even though I have to hold on to somebody to do it. People think I'm crazy. So I had to deal with my fear. Mastery taught me that repetition, doing something over and over and over again, like any kind of skill, learning a skill like basketball, whatever, leads to something. So every day, just using my left hand instead of my right hand, forcing myself and slowly getting used to it, that taught me a lot. And then the laws of human nature, I have one thing that when you have a stroke, it affected the right side of my brain, which destroyed the left side of my body. And supposedly when the right side of your brain is damaged, it tends to make you more emotional. And I've definitely become more emotional. So I've had to learn to control some of my anger, some of my impatience, some of my frustration. And obviously the laws of human nature are a lot about that. And the last chapter is about having to deal with death. And so with all of the things I'm dealing with and all the kind of, God damn it, why can't I do that? I have to keep reminding myself I'm alive. I'm going to write another book. The birds are out there chirping. It could have been a much different story. Last month, 6 weeks ago, was the 2nd-year anniversary of the stroke. And I had this thought, this could have been the 2nd anniversary of my death.
Wow.
And what people would be like gathering together, or maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But it would be like the anniversary of my death. But it's not. I've been given a second lease, and I have to think about that every single day.
Isn't that crazy to think that when you die, hopefully people will think nice things about you, and every year they'll get together and say, hey, let's tell a nice story about our friend or that we lost, hopefully. But isn't that crazy to think that someday we're going to die, and someday no one's going to remember us?
It's a weird thought. And it's also like, I wrote about this, I can't remember, I think it was in the 50th law, where enough time passes, nobody remembers you.
No one.
200 years from now, no one will even know who Lewis Howes was or Robert Greene, And so all traces of you are gone. Yeah, it's a weird thought. And
you might be in a history book or something, maybe.
Maybe. If the planet is still here.
It's here, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But this is sort of what my next book is about. You have to be able to take every kind of negative experience or emotion in life and find a way to transmute it into something healthy and positive. So how do you take that thought and turn it into something life-affirming and productive? And so my way is, okay, that very well may be, I better make the most of what the time that I have, because in 200 years, I'm nothing, right? Also, through my books, I will have a life that will go on. I will have a legacy. Work on that. Think about people reading you in the future. So I use it, any kind of negative thing. This is sort of the idea of amor fati that I talked about in my books. Any bad thing that fate brings you, you have to find a way. It's like alchemy. Using the philosopher's stone, you transform that into gold through a mental process.
How do you think we can transform ourselves into the person or the people we want to become when there only seems to be negative experiences in our life? I'm hearing you talk about transmuting negative into a positive. How can we truly transform ourselves into this desired dream life when it seems like everything is out to get me, the government isn't the way I want it to be, my friends are not the right friends? What do you think we can start to do to transform ourselves?
Well, I would tell people to read chapter 8 of the laws of human nature, because I go deeply into that, which is the law about your attitude. And the idea is you have a viewpoint, a perspective. It's like the lens on a camera. And it's through that lens that you view the world and you view people and you view events. And no two people see the same event in the same way, right? And so your attitude, how you look at the world, will determine what you get in life. So if you're focusing on all the obstacles, if you're focusing on the government, if you're focusing on COVID, if you're focusing on this person didn't give me that thing, my parents didn't give me that thing, that's you creating your attitude. You're building it. It's like a crystallization process. this crystal starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger as each new crystal is added, and you crystallize this negative defensive attitude towards life, and that's what you're going to get. And there's simple examples of that. So if I'm kind of come to this interview and I'm sort of defensive and I don't really feel good about Lewis and I'm not sure what's going to happen, you've picked that up on me because you're a very astute person, you're very sensitive. You pick it up. And so you're not going to be very friendly to me. So my initial attitude creates a reaction in you, which is negative. It starts from me. But because most people are kind of paranoid and don't have that self-awareness, they'll think, God, Lewis is such an asshole. Pardon? I don't know if I can say this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not on television. Lewis is such an asshole. He's so cold. Why is he? But it's coming from me. And you're not realizing it. So you create how people react to you. You create how negative circumstances affect you.
Yeah.
So, we have COVID and jobs are being wiped out left, right, and center. You're having to spend a lot of time alone at home. Your life has been massively disrupted, most people. And you can see this as like, God damn it, why did this have to happen? My life is ruined. I'm not going to go anywhere. Blah, blah, blah. And you start maybe drink a little bit. You start putting on some pounds, that COVID, whatever they call it.
COVID-15 or whatever.
COVID-15,
like the freshman
right.
15. Yeah.
Right? Well, it's understandable. It is a very devastating kind of bomb that exploded here. But on the other hand, you could say, this is an opportunity. And I'm not trying to be Pollyannish about it because I'm not a Pollyannish person, as you know. I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. And no one ever has to say that I'm Pollyannish after I wrote that book. But it's an opportunity. And the opportunity is, on many levels, to rethink your life, to rethink your values, to rethink where you're going, to rethink what your career should be, what your relationship to other people should be. It's a time to reorient yourself to who you are and what you like and what what your goals are and what makes you unique. It's a time to read books and enlighten yourself and enrich your mind. So if you take that attitude, then Ryan Holiday wrote the best book on this subject. I encourage people to read it. The Obstacle is the Way. If you have that attitude where obstacles are actually the path forward, nothing's going to stop you. But it's all how you look at things. It's kind of a mental process that you switch to seeing the positive side. So a stroke is like the worst thing that happened to me. It ruined someone, but it's also been a blessing in some ways because it's really made me appreciate my life, appreciate the people around me. And I'm now writing my 7th book.
Wow.
And I keep having this thought that I could die tomorrow because I'm in a very vulnerable state for catching the coronavirus once you've had a stroke. It could happen, I got to get this book done, man. I am so motivated. I'm working so hard on it because, I see that this is like my great opportunity to express something before I am dead.
Yeah.
So it's just that switch inside of that lens, how you look at the world, that will change what you're just talking about.
What are the greats in history? What have they done when they lose a war? A family member dies. They go through a life-threatening condition. What are the great presidents, rulers, leaders of the past? What do they do in those moments of tragedy that allow them to bounce back and then rebound into something more powerful or greater than before? Is there common themes from the past that you've seen?
Well, Abraham Lincoln faced a lot of that stuff. He dealt with a lot of death early on in his life with his parents and people around him, and he suffered some major setbacks. And then you can think of like Winston Churchill, who also dealt with, he led a war campaign, and during World War I that was a major disaster. He was in disgrace, and he was a very manic depressive person, and he became very, very depressed, and he bounced back. A lot of it is getting back to your attitude and towards thinking a particular way. So defeat and failure is the greatest thing that could ever happen to you.
To say it again?
Defeat or failure is the greatest thing that could ever happen to you.
Why?
Because when you're successful, you tend to not learn anything. You think, wow, my book, my business got so much, did so well. I've got the Midas touch. Anything I do is going to be great. And look, I've got all these people around me, these sycophants saying, Robert, you're wonderful, you're great. I love what you did, your book's fantastic, et cetera, et cetera. And slowly, I don't learn anything. And then my next project is a disaster because I've become grandiose, because I'm not really moored in reality. Failure teaches you your limits. It makes you realize what you did wrong. It shows you what you could do differently. You know, so making a personal example, because it's always easier for me to do that. I did a book with 50 Cent called The 50th Law. And the first iteration of that book I wrote, and I've never had this happen before. People weren't really liking it. And then the editor, the publisher, dropped the whole project. And I was facing a major disgrace. 50 was going to lose faith in me. I lost a project. And it was a big blow to my ego. And we all have egos. And so we found a new publisher, and he said, Robert, we'll do the book, but you got to rethink it, and I need this book in 8 months. And I go, you want me to start all over after a year working on this book, and you want it in 8 months? No way. But then I realized, okay, what is it that I did wrong? And he said, you didn't make the book a Robert Greene book. You made it too much about 50 Cent. People want to read you. They want to read about your ideas. They don't want it to be so much about him. They want a combination of the two. But you were being too humble here. And I go, okay. And I listened to him, and I wrote the next book. And it took me. I worked like a fiend, and I got it done in 8 months. And I took every lesson to heart about how I can fail. And it taught me very valuable lessons about the books that I write, and how I need to have faith in my style and my ideas, and not worry that if I'm working with a celebrity that I have to give him all the attention.
Right.
Failure taught me this, and success didn't teach me anything. So failure or defeat, great generals in battle, that's what they would learn. But the greatest general in history, I believe, was Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon Bonaparte had 10 years of the greatest success anyone has ever had in military history, from 1796 to 1806. He was on the top of the world. He crowned himself emperor. And then he had 8 years or 10 years of most abysmal failures. It's because it all went to his head. He lost touch with who he was. He lost touch with his own military strategies that were grounded in success. He became too conservative. That's the other thing that success will do. It'll make you conservative. It will make you think you have to hold on to what you've done and keep repeating it. And the world, success and great things happen by being not conservative, by being open with your ideas and challenging yourself and always trying something new and being willing to change. So that's, I think, the lessons there.
What would you say are 3 questions we should ask ourselves when we face some type of tragedy, some type of big loss, failure, near-death experience, breakup? What do you think? You said you started becoming introspective and asking yourself and changing your attitude. What 3 questions should we ask ourselves?
Well, I don't know if I can get to 3, but I'll start with 1. The first one is, could it have been worse?
Could it have been worse?
Yeah.
It could have been worse, or
Well, you're asking me for questions.
Yeah. Could it have been worse?
Yeah. I mean, let's say, I broke up with a girlfriend, and she had very embarrassing pictures of me, and she posted them all over the internet. Well, thank God that didn't happen. Or I could have died. That's always the last one you always say. Could have been worse. I could be dead, right? As long as you have your body and your mind together, you can recover. I tell people, and you can recover from the worst possible disaster, even public humiliation, you can recover from. Because fortunately nowadays people have short memories, and they'll always remember your last success. So things are never as dire as they appear to be. So could it have been worse? Or what is the worst scenario that could have happened? Well, luckily that didn't happen.
Yeah.
The next question is, I would say, what is the lesson I could learn from this? So if it's a breakup with someone, and I've been through them, we all have, it's like, instead of thinking that it was just putting blame on her or yourself. It's thinking of, was this the right person for me? There's going to be someone else, right? First of all, maybe I wasn't actually the right person for her, and maybe I was partially to blame for this. So what can I learn about relationships going forward? And what can I learn about what I want from a relationship? Maybe I want something a little more stable, or maybe I need something a little more exciting, to sort of see, to be future oriented. And that's really critical, because I talk to a lot of people who are going through hard times with COVID, is always being future oriented. So we tend, when we're in the moment of a bad thing, like a breakup or a failure, or like something like a disaster, is we're so enmeshed in the moment. And when enmeshed in the moment, things seem much larger than they are, right?
It seems so big.
Right. But with time and distance, if you look back 2 years ago, it doesn't seem so big anymore, right? So you need some perspective, and you need to understand that 2 years from now, you'll be on to another business, or you'll be on to another relationship, and things will be much better. So be future oriented. That's one of the key things, key elements about people who are very successful in life. They're always sort of oriented towards the future. What's the next project? What am I going to be doing in 5 or 10 years? As opposed to obsessed with the past. I think people who have the hardest time in life are so obsessed with the past. That scumbag, he destroyed me. He ruined my last project. That blah 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 blah. They hold on to all this crap, right? They're so weighed down by the past. Their parents, they whine, they complain. People who are future oriented, I'm on to the next thing. It's like they say in basketball, next man up. Our star player was injured. All right, next player, come on, let's just go. We got to win this game, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of the thing, is being future oriented and thinking like that.
It's really hard when you're in the moment of stress or breakup or chaos, or you get fired from your job. You feel like it's such a big deal. It's so messy, it's so painful. It's hard to think outside of that moment when you're in it. I went through a breakup almost 2 years ago, and I remember feeling like, this kind of sucks. It's in the moment, people are judging you. And I just kept saying to myself over and over again, I'm gonna have hindsight now. I think I was like, this is around January time. I was like, this might be like 6 to 8 weeks of some like drama or whatever, just gossip. Let me think it's gonna be New Year's Eve 1 year from today.
Exactly.
Like, what's the lesson I'm gonna learn from this experience?
Exactly.
How much stronger am I gonna be? How much more humility will I have?
Right.
Maybe I'll connect with someone new that'll be a better relation. All these things. I just kept saying, anytime I felt like the moment was bigger than me, let me have hindsight now. In a year, 6 months, 2 years, I'm going to be on to something else. And people will either move on with me or move out of my life.
That's the perfect example. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's hard, as you said,
It's really hard in
the moment, right?
It's very hard.
And so you can't beat yourself up. You can't God damn it, why am I like this? Why can't I just be like Robert or Lewis said? I'm not like that.
Yes.
So when things first happen and they're bad, I beat myself up for several weeks, but it only lasts for several weeks, and then I pick myself back up. So be patient and understand that right after something bad, you're going to be depressed. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to feel bad about yourself, to even blame yourself, but you're going to pick yourself up and be patient about it,
Yeah.
It's a process.
How do we develop seduction with money involved in a relationship?
Yeah.
And how do we stay in a healthy relationship and not allow money to ruin the relationship?
Well, money isn't just money. Money is a sign. Money is something that has psychology, has other things attached to it. So let's just say it's a woman who is finding herself losing her attraction to a man because he's not making any money, right? That could be because it's a sign that he doesn't have enough ambition, he doesn't have enough drive. Or it could be a sign that he's just finding himself, and eventually he'll discover it. But you're kind of turned off, a lot of women, and I think, it's mostly women, by the fact that this person doesn't have any drive, has no ambition. They're not trying to make something of their life, right? And so it's not about the money it's the fact that there's something missing in them, right? That kind of masculine energy. It's not just masculine. Women have great drive to make money as well. I don't mean to put it that way. But that kind of drive, that energy that makes them want to get ahead can be very seductive and very powerful.
That's powerful for women to see that in men.
Yeah. And to sense that he's just kind of a slacker. Okay, maybe he's got good qualities. Maybe he's a wonderful person, and that's fine. And then the money isn't a problem. You don't care. But maybe if you do care, it's because it reveals something about their character, right? The other thing is generosity in a relationship is very important, right? It's not just giving money, but it's also giving your energy, giving your time to the other person. So a classic turnoff that men will do is that they're not so generous with money, time, attention, etc. And it's a sign of something closed inside of them. So, they don't want to pay for a meal. They don't want to pay for something. They don't want to spend money on a nice gift or whatever. It's not the money. It's the sign that someone isn't generous in their spirit, in their heart. They're not willing to take risks, right? That'll be another thing that the lack of money will say. To start a business and fail would not be such I don't think would be such a turnoff, as opposed to never starting a business, as to always talking about, I could have been great, I could have done this, but never trying, because it reveals a lack of security about yourself, confidence, because confidence is a key quality. So I think money is often a sign of something else, another problem. It's revealing something about their character. It could be he or she isn't pulling in their weight, and that's an issue. Yeah, I kind of resent that.
Right.
But that's not about the money. That's about the other person not caring enough to pull their weight, or to not thinking about the other person's needs.
It's what's underneath the money.
Yeah, I think so.
You mentioned confidence for a second. How much does someone lacking confidence affect their ability to seduce and maintain a level of seduction in a long-term relationship?
Well, confidence is extremely important. It can go off into grandiosity and arrogance and hubris, and that can be a turnoff. But in general, most people, men and women, make the mistake by not having enough confidence.
Really?
By
being
enough. Insecure. Yeah.
It's better to rein someone's confidence down a little bit than to have none at all. Right? It's better to have more of it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, your ego's getting out of control. Let's take it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I have no confidence at all.
Well, the fact that you feel confident about yourself is very seductive in itself. It has an attractive power. I talk in The Art of Seduction of charisma. I have a whole chapter on the charismatic and the origin of charisma. And what I define charisma is, there's a person who has a kind of inner light inside of them. They're so confident that they kind of glow with that confidence, that their words are kind of revealing it, their eyes are glowing, their gestures are glowing, and they're very charismatic. It could be a Malcolm X, it could be a Marilyn Monroe, it could be a John F. Kennedy, it could be a Mick Jagger, whomever, right? We sense this incredible confidence in them, this power, and it's like an inner lantern that just makes everything glow. And we are so attracted to that. That's what charisma is. Why are we attracted to it? Because we envy people who have that kind of confidence. We wish we could have that. And we find it very compelling. We want to know them. We think that some of it perhaps will rub off on us. I know in working with 50 Cent, I wrote a book with him. This guy is very charismatic. He's extremely seductive. He's one of those men that I mentioned earlier who's like in that pantheon of great seducers, and I've seen him up front doing his seduction. So I know, I speak from experience. And he has this incredible charisma, this insane confidence. It's not in what he says, it's not in his eloquence, it's just in how he carries himself, right? And it could be a little bit cocky sometimes, as we've all seen from him. But man, it is so seductive, and women go crazy over things like that. And men will go crazy over that in women as well. So confidence is extremely important in the realm of seduction. You can almost not go wrong with it. Yes, you can border on being insane and grandiose.
Yeah.
But the feeling of that person is comfortable and confident and has that kind of inner, force, energy that's coming up from somewhere they don't know is very powerful and very compelling. So, and the lack of confidence is extremely anti-seductive.
It is very. It'll probably hurt the relationship. If your partner is always lacking confidence in themselves, it doesn't make you feel attracted to them, right?
Right.
So what would you say if someone's been through a breakup after breakup, or even just one bad breakup, and they feel heartbroken or closed off? How can they reclaim that confidence? What would you say to that person if they've lost confidence on how to reclaim it themselves? And also, if your partner has lost confidence and you're in a long-term relationship, how can you help someone gain confidence in a relationship? So individually, how do you reclaim it? And then your partner is lacking it.
Well, there's several ways to answer that. I mean, seduction is almost like a skill. It's almost like being able to hit a baseball and bat 300.
Yes.
So the best thing you can do after a bad relationship is go back in the game and try and meet other women and go back in and if you fail, to have a kind of a light attitude and not care. Mm-hmm. But closing yourself off will make it each time harder to get outside of yourself, right? I can remember one time I was in New York. I was young. I was maybe 24. I was on the subway, and I just received some great news about my career, about this thing that I had written, right?
24, yep.
Yeah, and I was on the subway going in somewhere in Manhattan, and all of a sudden, like these women were looking at me, and I'm not saying that never usually happens.
Right.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm not bragging.
Yes.
What's going on here? Wow, and this one really attractive woman. What's going on here? And then I can't forget that moment. It stuck out in my mind so strongly. Like there's this energy that I had that they were picking up and they were sensing it and they were attracted to it. I didn't say anything. I just heard. It wasn't we didn't have a phone then. I just had heard it and I was really happy in a great mood. But I'm certain that was that energy was kind of projecting itself onto other people.
Yes.
So seduction is a skill, and getting out there and trying your hand at meeting other women and going through the process, you'll learn about yourself. Don't try and take things so personally. Mm-hmm. Get back in the game. By being defensive and going into your shell and saying, oh, I don't want to get hurt again, you're going to make it harder each time to get out of that shell.
Yes.
So that other gender is kind of mysterious to us. We don't really know them. Right? They have a different world, a different personality, right? But the more you interact with women or men, the more you can kind of get a sense of what drives them and motivates. You can't ever totally understand them. A man can never understand a woman. There's always a big mystery there eventually. Yes. Thank God there is. But to the degree that you interact with women or men in any situation, you're kind of learning about them. You're getting more comfortable with them, right?
Yes.
So a lot of great male seducers had sisters. And a lot of great female seductresses had brothers.
Interesting.
They grew very comfortable with that male or female presence.
And they might have been around the sister's friends, or the woman might have been around their brother's guy friends and been around that energy more.
Right. So as if you had just brothers, women seem kind of scary or weird. Or what do they want? And the opposite is true.
Yeah.
So getting outside yourself, interacting with women, you'll get to feel more confident, you'll learn more, and you'll be more comfortable in their presence. So don't go into a shell. That's the main thing.
That's the key. And what about, did you have something else?
No, you had a second part.
What about if your partner, you're in a relationship for 10 years, and whatever reason your partner, man or woman, is lacking confidence. They're insecure, they're doubting themselves over and over. What could the other partner do to help them reclaim their confidence? Or is that not something you can do?
No, you can do that. You can find what it is that they need validation about, and you can, give them pep talks and make it clear to them. This is the most important thing, Lewis. Make it clear to them that you still have confidence in them. You haven't lost it. Because the sense that that other person is losing faith in you and your abilities is deadly.
That's big.
So if you care about that person and you don't want to see them go down the drain with their insecurities, make it clear that you haven't lost faith in them and show it to them in certain ways. Whatever it is that they're worried about, show them that you still believe that they can accomplish something. The relationship I've been in, it predates the 48 Laws of Power just barely, right? And before the 48 Laws of Power, I was a nobody. I had no money. I had no success. I was very frustrated. I was depressed.
Really?
I was very depressed, even bordering on suicidal.
Wow.
I was 37. I hadn't going anywhere. It didn't bother her. She had faith in me. She had confidence in me, right? She saw that something probably would happen. And, and then it did with the 48 Laws. But, I could sense that. She could sense that there was something I could do, right? So she kept boosting me about my writing and about my career. So what is it that that person is insecure about? Boost them up, make them feel like you haven't lost faith in them. And that will be almost enough in itself.